All right, everybody, welcome back to the Move podcast, talking about the 77th running of the Tour of Spain, aka the Vuelta. I am sitting here in Comporta, Portugal, which is a really beautiful sea line, as you can see or hear. I'm sitting right next to, which is really rare for us. I'm sitting right next to the great Johan Brunel. We're joined by JB Hager down there in Austin, Texas. But yeah, we've just, we've spent a few days on the beach here, Johan and myself. We've got, Johan's got his son here, Anna and I, which I know you want to have some questions about, JB.
Right.
We're here with our kids and we're just having a little family. This is wrapping up just a monster 3-week trip. Of course, this has nothing to do with the Tour of Spain, but a monster 3-week trip that we embarked on right after the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift ended. We've been everywhere, and this is sort of our final stop before we head back to London and take our flight back to Aspen. But been a wild trip. But and of course, the reason we are here is we're talking about the Tour of Spain, which starts tomorrow. Today's show also is brought to you by Element. We talk about it all the time. And by the way, this summer trip, this 3-week trip, I grew up in Texas. I have never been hotter. You see my face if you're watching the show. It's been hotter than hell for 3 weeks over here. I've just been hammering my Element as I go out and exercise every day, ride the bike, run, swim, do whatever I'm doing. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, no sugar, no gluten, no BS. It is the real deal. Special offer for our listener. If you head on over to drinklmnt.com/themove, you're going to get your free sample pack, which allows you to try out all the different flavors, sort of, figure out the one you like best and totally dial in your hydration. It is the key to performance and recovery. So, but here we are. We're talking about the Tour of Spain. Interesting race.
Wait. Hold on. Time out. I'm not going to let you just gloss over an interesting fact here. You weren't just over there on just an ordinary vacation. It was a very special trip. And how you kept this under wraps from the general public is beyond me. But you got to elaborate on the purpose of this trip, Lance.
Well, it was certainly the highlight of the trip. I think the purpose, that was one of the purposes. But Anna and I, who of course been together as you loyal listeners and viewers and supporters know, we've been together forever. We've been together for 14 years. We have 2 kids with Max and Olivia. And, we've just been happy. And finally we just said, you know what, let's make this official. And not tell anybody. It got complicated. Like, do we have a big wedding? Do we, for those who've been married, you go through that invite list and you're trying to figure out the invites and the
then you go, if I invite them, then right, you have to invite this. Then you have, and it snowballs.
It is such a shit show. And so we just said, you know what? Let's go straight to. We love both of us love Europe. Both of us actually really, really love France. And our really good friend, Patty McKillen, has an amazing property in Provence called Chateau Lacoste, which we wanted to go to anyways. And we said, let's do it there. Let's bring all the kids over. Let's have Liz there to document the moment. Of course, we had the Reverend Chad Mountain officiate things, which was a whole nother story. But it was really, really special. And if you all saw the pictures on socials, you could see just how special it was. Like a couple of those shots, man, when Anna turned the corner, I was like, just knocked me out. And so,
what's the story behind that one photo where you're like leaning forward, grabbing your knees, and you look like you're laughing almost?
No, that was Liz had the whole thing cooked up. That was the first look, it was, when you have a traditional wedding, you're not supposed to, and all this shit, it's like, you can't see me. You can't see the dress. I'm like, what are you talking about? We've lived together for 14 years. Like, why don't we all just get dressed in the same bedroom and bathroom? Like, no, she's like, nope, you have to go over there with the boys. And I'm like, let me see the dress. She's like, no. And so I didn't, we that part was traditional-esque. And instead of, we did it in a really cool art installation at Chateau Lacoste, but Liz had this idea that would be first look. So I sort of stood out in this garden, and Anna came around the corner, and I hadn't seen any of this stuff. I mean, that was it. I mean, what she captured was when I turned, because I had my back turned to her, and they said, "Okay, turn around." And that was my reaction. It was fucking crazy. I mean, after, it was awesome.
Of course, Anna would look good in a garbage bag. If you, I mean, right? If you
I'll tell her that as soon as she walks in. We'll let her know, honey. JB, just so you know.
And then I couldn't help but think about it. I know you guys got to see each other. You and Johan got to see each other in Mallorca last year, but that was amid a camp and a lot of activity and a lot. You probably got some good quality time to hang out and catch up. Really catch up, right?
This is special also with the kids. Christian and Max are the same age, and they only met each other once, and they don't remember. But Lance is Christian's godfather, so they met. They were both babies when they met the first, and now they reconnect 12 years later, basically, and it's like they've known each other forever. We don't know where they are right now.
That's awesome.
Well, that's not true. We sort of know where they are, but
kind of, yeah.
It's been a good trip. And this, just to sit around and have a couple of beers on the beach and relax. And of course, to do it together, to do the show together, which the only time we've ever done that was in Mallorca. Mm-hmm. But anyways, we'll break it all down. But
yeah, and I didn't see any info on a registry. I don't know if you need a toaster or an air fryer or what's on
it's on registry.com.
Right.
We did break a steamer over here, for the clothes and all that stuff. So Anna totally fried our steamer. Or not a steamer. What's the thing where you straighten out your clothes? Mr. Steamer, whatever. Yeah, that got fried. So throw that on the registry. But let's talk about the Vuelta. But before we do, today's show brought to you by also HVMN. We talked a lot about them this summer, and it's legit. I mean, we all know 60% of the peloton is actively using ketones and ketone esters. Their new Ketone IQ is a complete game changer. It is lower cost, it tastes better, and is more effective. And the results speak for themselves. You can look at the scientific and the lab results, but you can also look at the results of just out in the field, aka what's being used in the peloton. You can also look at SOCOM, Special Forces, all these people that are actively using ketones. Special offer for our listeners. Head on over to hvmn.com. Use the promo code THEMOVE20. That gets you 20% off. That's over at hvmn.com. And the promo code is THEMOVE20. All right, Tour of Spain. Before we get into it, because I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say today, but I will tell you this. I've only done one Vuelta, and I did it in 1998. And by the way, I'd only ever done one other Grand Tour, and that was, of course, the Tour de France. I didn't know what to expect. And my takeaways from just, thinking back to then, of course, been a long time ago, was it was a complicated race. This is a race where you think of, Tour of Spain, very hilly, might be hot. The other element here is the wind. I mean, this race, when you combined not just the heat, the hills, but the wind and the positioning and all this strategy around that, it's one of the more complicated races. And we'll also, as we'll talk about later, it is that time of year where you just don't know how people are going to show up. You don't know if anybody cares. You don't know if somebody's one of the riders' teams is saying you have to go. This is, or if this is a priority. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to Tour of Spain. Is my impression.
Yeah, I mean, it is the third Grand Tour, and we all know the Tour de France sticks out. So basically, I mean, and some of the riders don't even know themselves when they show up how good they're going to be. We have guys who have failed at the Tour de France, and let's say that the Tour of Spain is kind of a re-exam. But a lot of guys do the combination Giro Vuelta, and so it's been a long time since we've seen those guys at a high level. For example, the guy who won the Giro d'Italia, Jay Hindley, is in theory one of the favorites for this race, but it's really unknown because we have never seen him perform on a high level other than at the Giro d'Italia. So this is a race where, it's basically getting into the first week and see how everybody is. And on top of that, with finally the fact that Primož Roglič, the 3-time winner, is starting the Vuelta, which was unconfirmed until 3-4 days ago.
And we haven't seen him race since.
It's an open race. There's really good riders at the start, but we don't know what their condition is. And this is typical of the Tour of Spain being the third Grand Tour of the season.
And you throw on top of that some of the teams desperate for a win, right? As the season winds down.
We were talking about that this morning. I mean, when you factor, we're still talking about these teams that are facing relegation, and whether or not this is the type of race where they can get enough points to stave that off. We're still talking about the same thing. Although Bike Exchange seems to have.
Bike Exchange seems to be doing good, but one of the teams who is facing relegation is Movistar, believe it or not. I mean, a team which has been around 40 plus years. And so the only World Tour team of Spain in their home race, they really are under pressure. They need to perform. So there, I mean, I would not like to be in the shoes of these guys right now. A guy like Enrique Moss, for example, who finished second last year, finished second on another occasion in the Vuelta, but, doesn't have his form of last year. He must be under a tremendous amount of pressure, because nobody can imagine that Team Movistar, ex-Banesto, ex-Caisse d'Epargne would not be part of the 18 best teams in the world.
Yeah, this is just a wild guess, but Movistar always killed it in the climbs, right? Multiple strong climbers. Has their roster been picked at by all these emerging strong teams? We've talked about how there's so many more strong teams with depth, with Jumbo, with UAE. And teams like that could always climb, they get picked at, right? They get their riders get taken.
I have a completely different theory.
Okay, let's hear it.
And they are not dissimilar to the Italian teams as a whole, right? As we talked about during the tour. They are not, I mean, when you talk about the Spanish teams and the Italian teams, they're just not the level of detail to training, to diet, to every aspect of cycling. I just don't think, if I think about Movistar and I think about Jumbo Visma and I think about Ineos and I think about other teams, there is no way there is this sort of Six Sigma approach to the sport.
It's old.
It is very old. Yeah. How do you feel today? You feel good? Okay, go long. I mean, I'm exaggerating. But
right.
They do not have this level of science and detail and just a data-driven approach that these teams that came out of nowhere have. Yeah. And that's the reason.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think, the fact that they're now in danger of being relegated, it's, this is a 3-year classification. So they've seen it coming and they just woke up in the second part of the last year. So, I mean, it is still kind of an old school mentality, in my opinion. It has worked for them in the past, but the last 3 years, it hasn't worked anymore. And the fact that they had to rely on a guy who's going to turn 42 years old soon, Alejandro Valverde, is now going to do finally his last Grand Tour of his career, ex-winner. This guy won the Tour of Spain in 2009.
Yeah.
He's still their hope.
And expect a show from him. Okay.
Yeah, so that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign.
We will get it. We will get a show from him.
Yeah, we will. And we'll get into more of our GC favorites and Enrique Moss and Movistar in a second. But why don't we back up a little bit and talk about your thoughts on the course with, a team time trial and an individual time trial in the middle, some new finishes. I'd love your thoughts on the course, especially you, Johan.
Yeah, well, it's, typically the Tour of Spain is a climbing race, and it's known for a good race for punchy climbers. Overall, if you look at this course, there are a lot of mountain stages, but the really steep climbs that are typically in the Tour of Spain, like Lagos de Covadonga, like Angliru, those typical like really steep climbs are not there. So there's a lot of mountains, but the really steep ones are not present this year. 23-kilometer team time trial the first day, and then 30-kilometer
in a foreign country.
30-kilometer time trial in the middle. It obviously favors teams, riders that are on good teams, because Roglic, the favorite, in my opinion, being on Jumbo-Visma, a guy like Remco Evenepoel on Quickstep, Carapaz on Ineos, and Simon Yates on Bike Exchange. So those 4 guys have good teams. So I think this will set the tone from the beginning. 23-kilometer team time trial is, it's an event that is becoming more and more rare, and I think it's good to see it back, and especially at the start of a Grand Tour.
And that's not a look. I'm happy when anytime they have a team time trial. 23K. When you said 23K earlier today, I was like, oh, thank God, because that actually feels a little longer than we have been doing lately. In our day, they were 40, 50, 60 kilometers, which is, of course, 20, 30, 40 miles. But this is enough for me.
It's good. I mean, we'll take it, right? We'll take it considering what we've seen in the past.
Yep.
It is a technical course, and it's in the center of Utrecht, Holland. So I think that's a bit to the disadvantage of the really stronger teams, because if it's technical, I think the weaker teams have a little bit of a benefit. They won't lose as much time, but
the stronger teams, when it's less technical, they can just get that train going, get the momentum.
They get it up to 60K an hour, and it's over.
If you have 3-4 strong time trials like Jumbo-Visma, they have Primož Roglic, Olympic champion. They have Rowan Dennis, podium Olympic Games. They have Eduardo Affini,
just won the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah. So, these 3, if you have these 3 guys basically, and it's an out and back, that's a disaster for the weaker teams. But anyway, we'll already see from the very start a difference between the strong teams and between the favorites.
And there's a forecast for rain. So you're talking about putting 8 guys together, technical course, 23 kilometers, probably hasn't been raining very much in the inner city.
Yeah, that could be tricky.
That can immediately be complicated.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and jump into the GC favorites. Let's start with Roglic for obvious reasons. Coming back, we've seen this movie before, right? Things don't go well in the Tour. He hunkers down, focuses, comes out and wins the Vuelta.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bit different this time. Last year he did have a hard crash in the Tour, pulled out, I think, mid-race more or less. And then there was the Olympic Games in between. He won the Olympic time trial. So we kind of knew he was back to a decent form. I think this year is different. We don't know how he is, so he only decided at the last moment. I'm pretty sure that, if Roglic and Jumbo-Visma decide that he starts, it's because he sees that there's a possibility. Otherwise, there's no reason, there's no need for him to do the Vuelta just to be present. I don't think the team would be in a position to put any pressure on him to participate, and he's in front of a unique opportunity to be the sole. The record is 4 times winning the Vuelta, which is Roberto Heras, but nobody has won it 4 times in a row. So this would be something very special. And if he's at the start and with the team he has, I think they see a real possibility that he can win it.
All right. I think we do all know what to expect there. One of the ones I'm really interested in getting both of your thoughts on is Remco Evenepoel. Mm-hmm. Unproven as a GC, but man, it just seems like he's got momentum on his side right now, right? And he's healthy again.
Yeah, he obviously has the potential, and seeing what he did in San Sebastian a few weeks ago, if he has that form, he's going to be up there. The only thing he needs is being steady and being regular. This is what he has been lacking until now, and so this is a big test for him. He's done 1 Grand Tour, the Giro d'Italia, and I think he started in less than ideal conditions. After his bad crash the year before. So I think we can expect great things from him in this Vuelta. He just comes off once again.
Is it not about time?
It is time.
It is time. Definitely. We have seen the hope and the promise and the hype and the hysteria. These other young kids have done it. They've come in, out of nowhere to produce in these 3-week Grand Tours. You cannot be that guy right? With all that hope and promise that does things like he does at San Sebastian, who can climb like that. We know he can time trial. It is now the time to put it together. What there's not a better stage than the Tour of Spain,
Exactly. I agree.
which, look, love cycling, love all these races. It's kind of like the sleeves off your vest. This is the place with no pressure to do it.
Definitely also the best Grand Tour to get through the first week without a problem. Completely different than the Tour de France and even the Tour of Italy. It's more relaxed.
And starting in Northern Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, these are his type and style of roads. This is
so I do think that we have to start saying, okay, you know what? The playtime is over. It's time to really
all right.
Go and prove it.
We agree on
he
that.
has the potential. He does have the potential, that's for sure. And
he's been too good. Yeah, he definitely, whether or not he can put it together for 3 weeks and skip a bad day, he's definitely got the potential.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Simon Yates. It seems like we always have a question mark over consistency through a Grand Tour, but certainly the talent. What do you guys think?
What do you say?
I mean,
he won the Tour. He won the Tour of Spain in 2018.
And I like how this team has come up. They have all the teams have been the one, and we're talking, of course, about Bike Exchange that has responded to this threat of relegation. I don't think that stops. I think they keep it rolling. They've got momentum on their side.
Yeah, and I think Simon Yates is in a good place. The team has shown that they keep having confidence. He has renewed, I think, for 2 or 3 more years. And they need to perform. They need to perform. He had a disappointment in the Giro, so he definitely will want to prove that he's a guy that has to be taken into account. And this course for him is ideal. There's a lot of uphill finishes, not too long. And he has proven in the Giro that he's actually become one of the good time trialists. He won the time trial.
Yep.
So I think Simon Yates is definitely one of the candidates that they have to keep an eye on.
I think I recollect the conversation going into the Giro regarding Simon Yates was he just seems to have a bad day. There's just one in there that kind of kills his 3-week tour.
Yeah.
But by the way, none of that. Just because this is the Tour of Spain versus, of course, Tour of Italy at the start of the year and Tour de France, these are 3-week races. A bad day is a bad day. Like if that is your tendency, it can happen in any 3 of these races, and it can also ruin any 3 of these races. Now, you might hope that bad day is on an easy day where you could masquerade and make it to the finish and hide behind the team. It's still a 3-week tour. It still matters. Still the same thing.
And then, of course, we got a good look at Jai Hindley in the Giro this year. Amazing. And that, that's a perfect setup, that combination. You already mentioned that. Giro Vuelta is a combo that a lot of riders go for. Clearly a goal of his. Your thoughts?
Jai Hindley, we've seen him. His best performances have been in 2 big races, 2 times the Giro. And this year, he was really amazing. That performance on Marmolada when he dropped Carapaz and took a minute 40 on him or something was up there with the best performances in terms of watts per kilo. So he definitely has the potential. I think for that guy also, it is time to, it's not just about the Giro. He's still relatively young, or at least relatively inexperienced as a cyclist. And I think this Vuelta is also really, really good for him with this kind of course.
And a confirmation. I think that's a guy like him needs a confirmation, right? Whether it's the Vuelta or even better if it comes in the Tour. But being so impressive in the Giro, this is the time to confirm, or not. This may just be something he's using for miles and extending his season. Obviously, you can't end the season after the Giro, but you can't have performances like that, and not being critical, but performances like that kind of have to be followed up with something more.
Yeah,
right. Just begs you begs for more.
And he's on Bora. Bora has been doing great. They didn't have a great Tour de France, so they will obviously want to get back to the level. They have a great team, by the way. It's not just about Jay Hindley. They have Wilco Kelderman. They have the Colombia guy Higuita, and they have Emmanuel Buchmann. So they have a really strong team, which could come into play, in the second part of the Vuelta.
Yeah. Before we get into the other stuff, and there is some more exciting stuff, especially when it comes to Nairo Quintana, which we're just going to have to address because he came into this race as one of the favorites, and there's been some stuff that come up. But today's show also brought to you by Athletic Greens, as I have been on this whirlwind trip all over Europe, all over. By the way, we were in Marrakesh the other day as well. JB, it was insane. Like Marrakesh, I've always wanted to go to Morocco, never been to Morocco. But as we've embarked on this trip and done all this crazy stuff, there's a few things that just haven't left my daily regimen. One of them is Athletic Greens. I just don't miss a day. It's a complete game changer for me. I started taking it months and months and months ago for gut health, for energy, for endurance, all these great things. 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day off just right. All of this for less than $3 a day. By the way, they've reinvented the formulation like 50 plus times. Like these guys and gals are just on it. Let's make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/themove. Once again, that's athleticgreens.com/themove. Speaking of this trip, what is the one thing that's missing? And I'm normally a really good sleeper. I'm on the road. We've been on the road for 3 weeks. I've been in a different mattress like 20 different times. My Helix mattress, it's gone. And I noticed it. I'm not shitting you.
No, that's when you notice when you're on a whirlwind trip, sleeping in a different bed.
And you know, like you sleep at home for 2 months, and you sleep in this, and you're in love with your mattress, and your new wife is in love with her mattress, and then you get on these ghetto hotel mattresses. It's just different, and I'm reminded why I love my Helix mattress. Right. Yeah, this is where you back me up.
Oh, of course. Like I said, you're testing them night after night. Now you know the difference.
Consistency, then you get on something else. But because I've completely customized my Helix sleep mattress, I went on the website. I took the 2-minute sleep quiz, talked about all the characteristics of my sleep and Anna's sleep, the whole thing, and they completely customized this mattress for me. It arrived at the doorstep, came in a box, popped it out. Things right on my bed. I mean, it's a game changer. Don't take it from me. GQ and Wired magazine named it the #1 sleep mattress in the industry. Pretty amazing. Head on over to helixsleep.com/themove. Take the 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll completely customize your mattress. Again, that's helixsleep.com/themove, and a special offer: $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Again, that's helixsleep.com/themove.
All right, let's jump back into GC favorites. Richard Carapaz, and of course, Ineos look good as a team. Oh, wait, what? What?
Land, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking about his change of teams.
If it is in fact true that he is changing teams, which is certainly his right, and if I'm all in favor of, it's a free market system. So if you get a bigger offer and a better offer to go somewhere else, great. But he's leaving a great team. If in fact it's true, he's leaving a great program that, as we talked about a second ago, has this science and this method behind it. He is going to, if you can believe what you read, he's going to go to a team that does not have that. And I just think, in light of this conversation, it's really not worth talking about, right? Mm-hmm. You're there to just sort of phone it in. Right? If you know you're leaving the team,
and the deal is done.
Yeah,
the results don't matter.
Yeah.
What does it do to the morale of your teammates?
It really depends on his mindset. I mean, he is a proud champion. We know that. He did great at the Giro. He didn't win, but he was on great shape. The combination of both is always very difficult. Let's not forget, Carapaz was he third? He was third in the Tour. No. He was third. He was second in the Vuelta the year he won the Giro, I think. Combination Tour and Vuelta is a bit more difficult, but I think he was great in the Giro. If he really wants it, he will be up there. He has a great team. Now the question is, what has this whole discussion, because there's been talks about him going to EF, but it's not been confirmed. So right. Ineos is in a position to always match any offer. And if I would be Ineos, I would try to keep him on the team, not at any cost, but I also can't imagine that if Carapaz goes to another team, it won't be a number that Ineos cannot match. So it's just a question of what has this done to his mindset, right?
But it would be done by now.
It's done. If it's done, I'm surprised it's not announced yet. So that's I don't know what's going on there. So maybe Ineos is still in the game.
How much more money would have to be thrown at you as a good overall rider to go from Ineos to EF?
I think that the money is an issue, which I don't.
Well, if my options were to ride for Jonathan Vaughters or do anything else, I'd do the other one for free. Let me just be very clear.
Okay, I'll back you up on that. Me too.
Yeah. There's no way.
I personally don't think, JB, that the money is an issue, because I don't think that EF is in a position to increase the contract of Carapaz. Let's not forget, this is a contract of a guy who he signed when he won the Giro, right? So I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue of Carapaz is he wants to be the sole leader. And so, he would definitely be that at EF, but if you don't have a strong team around you, that makes no sense. So,
and then are they still facing relegation, or
they are.
Magnus Cort got some results for him and some points for him, and Bessinger just won. Yeah,
but the Bessinger's results don't count.
They don't count for points. Okay,
not in the top 10 of their team.
In just being me up too, because I'm sort of in line with JB on this. Like, is there any in hiring a guy like Carapaz? Does that
no?
Well, then he's the
no. Then why would the points don't go with?
You're a rider like Carapaz who is a true winner. Like this kid, you put a number on his back, he's like, fuck it. I want to win. Like, you just kind of want to shake him.
Yeah, but if he has his head clear, and he's from what I've been reading, he said he has prepared himself well. He has a strong team around him. I think that also says a lot, because Carapaz is a leading figure within Ineos, and the fact that they go to the Vuelta with him as a leader shows that if he leaves, he's gonna leave on good terms. Otherwise, they would not take him. And they would give the chance to younger riders. So I think there's still a possibility that he stays at Ineos. I'm not excluding that. There's a possibility. I think that Carapaz will do well.
Yeah, I think you touched on it, but usually those teams have a right to match. Is that very typical?
Well, yeah, but in this case here, I don't think it's a money issue. It cannot be, because if Ineos really wants to keep Carapaz on board, he stays. I don't know how much he makes, but he's not going to make 50% more at EF.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the case. So we don't really know why he wants to leave.
All right, who else we got?
Enrique Moss. Back to the Movistar conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that Enrique Moss is going to be up there. He was second last year. He was good last year. He was second when he was really young, when he was on Quick Step. So 2 times second, but this is not Enrique Moss. In the Tour de France, he was not good at all until he finally abandoned. And from what I've been...
then he got good after that.
Was that?
He was not... But sorry, you said he wasn't good at all until he finally abandoned. I was like, what? Then he got good.
No.
The way that was an obstacle kind of thing. He was riding really good at home after he abandoned.
Strava champion.
But no, I mean, apparently he had some, and this is something actually that we're going to see more and more in this generation of cyclists. He had so much pressure that it's kind of a mental issue, they say, and he doesn't know how to deal with pressure. I mean, we just recently saw Tom Dumoulin called it quits, like straight away, and and we've seen other guys with burnouts. Enrique Moss is also. I know. But listen, this is the new generation, man.
No, this. We should not do podcasts together.
Enrique, it's better to have a separation. Can I have like a transparent separation?
Call your son in here. No, this is okay. All right, I'm going to get in trouble.
It's going to happen more and more. These kind of the problems to deal with. There's people who deal with problems with stress. Other people, come on.
I'm calling it right now. Let's bring Max and Christian in here and they'll take over for the remainder. All right. João Maida. Let's talk about him. I think the original plan was Pogačar wanted to do the Vuelta after the results in the Tour de France, change of plans. He's riding well.
Yeah,
right?
he won the most difficult stage in Tour of Burgos 2 weeks ago. João Maida is more or less. I think he doesn't have the same qualities as Evenepoel, but it's a little bit the same. He's been up there, but he has not confirmed. He's been fourth in the Giro d'Italia, and that's it. He does have a decent team around him. He's the leader of the team this time, not having to work for anybody else.
We have McNulty there, right? With UAE.
Yeah.
There's another guy. Another guy here's a guy that we've seen do some pretty incredible things on the high mountains, big climbs, long climbs, time trials, show incredible power.
Yeah, but it's the question is with McNulty, for example, is how has he recovered from the Tour? Almeida did the Giro, then finally had to abandon because of COVID. McNulty has shown incredible things in the Tour de France. I mean, if that one particular stage, if he has those legs, I mean,
that's enough.
Yeah, that was impressive. But I think those guys are definitely not on the level of saying, okay, these guys have a chance to win the Vuelta. If you really look at the guys to win the Vuelta, it's Roglic, it's Carapaz, it's Simon Yates, and it's Jai Hindley. Those guys are Grand Tour winners. Everybody else comes one level below, I think.
Yeah, you did have a question mark by Miguel Angel Lopez.
Well, I mean, there's always question marks with him. He does have a point to prove. His disastrous exit from the Vuelta last year, being in third position. He will want to prove in the Tour of Spain. He's a very, very proud guy. Proud Colombian. But the same thing, he's a great climber. He's most likely the favorite for the hardest stage of this Tour de France, which finishes on Sierra Nevada. It's the only stage at altitude, 2,500 meters. But for the overall, I think Astana will lose time in the team time trial. He will lose a considerable amount of time in the time trial. And then, he's been 2 times on the podium in a Grand Tour, third in the Vuelta, third in the Giro, but it's been a few years since then. So, he will be there to spice it up, but I don't see him as these other 4 guys have to fail. And not all 4 will fail for Miguel Angel Lopez to have a chance to win.
And before we move on to the top sprinters, let's talk about Nairo Quintana. Maybe if people are listening, they haven't been keeping up with the news. Can you break down what's going on with him? Obviously, he looked very good at the Tour de France. Yeah, he would have been a favorite here.
Was it the good at the Tour? He's won the Vuelta already and been second in the Vuelta. And so obviously, he was going for the win. 2 days ago, we got the news that during the Tour de France, he tested positive twice for the substance tramadol, which is a heavy painkiller. So it is a very strange situation because it's one of those things that's particular to cycling, right? So he's disqualified from his result from the Tour because that substance showed up in his sample.
Twice.
Yeah, on two different occasions. But he's not sanctioned. There's no sanction. This product is on the list of the UCI, but it's not on the list of WADA, which makes no sense to me. Because, if you want to be an Olympic sport, then you follow the rules in terms of anti-doping of the governing body, right? So cycling made an exception here and said, okay, we're also putting tramadol on the list, a painkiller which apparently has been used by cyclists in the last decade until 2019. It's banned since 2019. So cyclists have used it as a pain, to numb the pain, basically. So basically, if you ride your bike and your legs start to hurt, this substance would apparently have an effect on that. It makes no sense to me because I think it numbs your whole body. I mean, if you
that's what I was wondering about. I had to look up what tramadol was, and I was like, does this really help performance wise? Are they using it after a stage just to get sleep and recovery?
Yeah, I mean the reports were, that you would that it was pretty commonly used in the peloton, but I think we're missing the headline. The headline here is you have a headline, right? The real headline is that he has, quote, tested positive, and he has been stripped of his 6th place in the Tour de France. And so, all of us that are used to this would be like, okay, well, he's going to be gone for 2 years and he's at the end of his career, so he's gone forever. And then you realize that no, like there are all these different sort of sets of rules and regulations and people at the table and voices and influences. And so, not only do you have WADA and USADA, and then you have the IOC and then you have the UCI, then you have these other sort of rogue organizations like MPCC, which is led by Roger Liget, which is, Roger Liget was a director like 1800 years ago, who's got this organization that has made these things.
Who, by the way, when he was a cyclist, tested positive.
Well, let's not. We're just reporting the current facts, but he
just throwing it out there.
Yeah. I mean, FYI. But it's to me, it just sort of the end game, this solution, or the answer here is like, look, what are we doing? Like, why is this a headline? Like if it's not a positive test, and it shouldn't be on newspapers all over the world, and it shouldn't be stripping him of his 6th place in the Tour, and it shouldn't be forcing him to go home from the Vuelta. Like you're either in or you're out.
Well, he wasn't forced. I mean, he is entitled to participate.
I understand, but he's not there.
But
and he's not there because it's a PR issue, and that's not the sport should not run itself and govern itself that way.
No, and I can answer your question of why it's a headline too, as someone who has spent a career in media and some more recent time in journalism. It's like most writers now are, bonused or paid on clicks and hired or fired on clicks. This is a clickbait story, right? That's why it's a headline.
Yeah, but I at the same time,
I'm telling you something you already know. I can see that.
But at the same time, JB, I think this is typical for cycling. No other sport, like you get a guy like Rafael Nadal. He wins Roland Garros. Everybody knows he's severely injured. He gets through the tournament with painkillers, and he's applauded to be a hero because he's so tough. That he has to walk off the court on crutches. But he says, okay, yeah, my medical team did a great job, and, they helped me get through the pain.
Yeah.
A product like tramadol is not going to make you go faster. It's the opposite, right? So cycling has this issue because the tramadol case, the tramadol issue comes from MPCC. This is not an official recognized organization, but they said, okay, we are going to ban tramadol. So everybody who's a member of MPCC has declared we're not using tramadol. One of which is actually Arkea Samsic, who's the team of Quintana. So I think it's a ridiculous story. It cannot be that you are stripped of your results because of a positive test, and at the same time you're not sanctioned and you're able to participate. That makes no sense.
And by the way, you and I are not going to be the ones to mediate this situation. But if I could just have the final word, it's probably not something that should be used in the peloton.
I agree.
But what should happen is that there is one set of rules, and there's not a bunch of just ankle biters that just want to set their own sort of fringy rules. One set of rules. That's end of discussion. Should it or should it not be used? We can decide on. Is there one law that governs this sport and whether or not? But by the way, this is why I always say this sport should not be structured this way. Yeah, no. There's not 15 stakeholders here at the table that dictate these things. There's one. And so, end of discussion.
All right, moving on. Sprinters.
Thank you.
We can go on forever.
How are they shaping up? I'll rattle through some names. Merlier.
Nobody sprints at the Vuelta.
Ackermann, Bennett, Pedersen. Who else is on your list of good sprinters?
I think that the fastest sprinter by far is Tim Merlier, Belgian champion, just lost the European Championships to his teammate Fabio Jacobsen, but I think he's the fastest guy. He's also a guy who has never finished a Grand Tour, so. On paper, there's 4 stages for the sprinter. So that team in particular will definitely go for those 4 stages. And I think the field of sprinters, of real sprinters, is quite weak. You have Pascal Ackermann. Yes, but it's been 2 years since we saw a strong Pascal Ackermann who won stages in the Giro and won the points jersey. Sam Bennett, the same, since his move from Quickstep to Bora is a shadow of himself. His teammate Danny van Poppel is actually sometimes faster than him. He's doing the lead out sometimes and finishes ahead of him. And then we have, of course, Mats Pedersen, who won a stage in the Tour. But
not everyone's watching the show. That Lance's head shake when your lead out man rides away from you.
Do the lead out, and you can't. Sorry, I can't come around you. But
I didn't watch him. I was watching.
I was like, what? You don't see that very often.
But Danny Van Poppel, by the way, is the son of.
I understand.
I understand. Jean-Paul Van Poppel.
Yeah, who was also hella fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm well aware.
So it's definitely the Tour of Spain is not a race for sprinters. We know that. As a matter of fact, in many cases, the points jersey is not won by a sprinter, but won by a guy from GC. But Merlier is the fastest guy, the favorite. And in those
also a rider who's leaving
the team, going to Quickstep.
Yep.
And he is famous for he's won a stage in the Tour and he won a stage in the Giro. And every time he won, it was the first bunch sprint. So stage 2. Tim Merlier. And then he goes home.
And then they go home.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to cover anything else regarding the sprinters?
No, in terms of the sprints, I think that's it. There's 8 mountain stages. And if you add to that 4 sprint stages and 2 time trials, that's the majority of the stages. So there's not that many other possibilities for stage hunters.
I did want to ask if, Johan, you can give any kind of teaser. I know you and Spencer already recorded outcomes.
We did, yeah.
Give us an idea of, let me back up. With the Tour de France and outcomes had great results, Tour de France tends to be a lot more predictable, which means you don't quite get the odds you get. If we're going into the Vuelta and people want to join our season pass and get outcomes and potentially get some action on this, I predict you're going to have more interesting predictions that maybe have better odds.
Yeah, I think the Vuelta is easier, for example, than the Giro. And for the sole fact that the Vuelta is the last, a lot of guys don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So there's teams who have something to defend, and there's the big mountain stages are going to be divided between the favorites. So the Vuelta is a stage race that's really with the mindset that you make the difference at the end of the season. For example, you see a guy like Rigoberto Urán he got to hear, he got the news in the Tour that he had to go to the Vuelta also. And he was there. Oh, I just heard I had to go to the Vuelta. What the fuck?
It's funny how you say that. I had to go to the Vuelta.
It is that race.
Yeah.
It is that race.
By the way, Lance, I'm going to take the opportunity.
It's not Siberia, but it's.
Would it be different if it was at the beginning? If it was flipped with the Giro, is that part of it? The timing of the season.
It's a good question. It used to be. It actually used to be before the Giro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the calendar, was structured then, it went Vuelta, Giro, Tour, World Championships, and the season was more or less done. We can debate whether or not this new time on the calendar is better for the Vuelta. Because when it's in April, that's a tough time to do it. That's a tough time to do a Grand Tour.
I've done both. I've done the Vuelta in April, May, and then in September. I mean, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it was tough because you just come off the classics and go straight into the Vuelta. And on top of that, on a Spanish team, so it was super, super, super important. By the way, Lance, you finished fourth, right, in the Vuelta. So you remember yesterday I asked Anna if you ever told her the story about me kicking your ass in the Tour.
Yeah.
Remember that, right?
Yeah, I do.
So I'm going to take the opportunity that we're together here. We're together,
Okay.
To say that at least this is one race I did better than you because I was third in the Vuelta and you were fourth.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah.
I think our car just pulled up out front to take us to dinner.
All right. Yeah. I'm gonna let you guys get back to your bromance.
No, but what about we've got a Uvalde update.
Yes. So all of the bikes are built. Thank you to everybody that chipped in and showed up. Like Melojani's is so packed, that. But they helped us orchestrate bike builds out at Ski Dock, which is a boat dealership that is here in Austin that's supportive of this effort and organize everything. Volunteers showing up for these bike build parties. All 850-ish bikes are built. For those of you who don't know Texas, HEB is a big grocer here in town, family owned, all over the state. They're always huge to chip in, and they're going to let us load up in some of their big 18-wheelers and take all the bikes down there. They were super supportive when I did Bikes for Kids for 18 years. So the effort came together primarily, led by MJ's and Ski Dock, Operation Get Out, but mostly volunteers showing up and building all those bikes.
Right.
So
the pictures we've seen, JB, of all the bikes together, that's impressive.
Yeah, there's something about seeing that many bikes together.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, I did this for years, and Lance, you were always there on giveaway day when you just see stacks of them filling up a warehouse, knowing that they're all just going to some kid. That's right around the corner. That'll be on the 27th. We'll be in Uvalde.
Awesome.
And ready to go. But thank you to everyone again who donated and those who volunteered to build bikes. We appreciate it.
It
exceeded on every expectation. The fundraise, the volunteer.
You remember how nervous you were about raising the money? Yes. As was I. Yeah, we were like, what do we do if we don't get there? And turns out we didn't
even get halfway when we got there.
Yeah, our listeners very, very generous. We appreciate that. And if you have questions for during the Vuelta, just send them to the move at wedo.team. Of course, we're going to be doing weekly check-ins with the move as needed. Johan and I'll jump on and do something for JB Squared if we feel like there's something that we absolutely need to jump in and talk about. La Movida is happening. And of course, Outcomes, if you want to follow Johan and Spencer, that's available at wedo.team/season pass.
Those last two shows are daily, JB. So La Movida in Spanish, daily, and Outcomes for those who want to listen to our advice on winner predictions daily.
Yeah, I'll be listening. I want some action.
Yeah, and La Movida is now in the member portal for pre-show.
Yes.
And lives on YouTube, where it's really doing well and growing an audience too. If you like to watch the guys, then you can watch it on YouTube.
All
That's
right.
it. Have fun.
Thanks, guys. Yep.
Thank you
for
very
tuning
much.
in. Yep. See y'all soon.